Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Full Quota Podcast. This is your weekly South African cricket podcast. We normally record at the start of the week on a Monday. You will get us. We talk all things that have happened in the previous week in South African cricket. My name is Mpho. I've got Tim Deles here with me. Remember, please follow us on YouTube, subscribe to YouTube, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, wherever this podcast is posted. We also on Instagram and we put up links to it. So if you went through the Instagram channel, please just follow, like, do the things that you do. But most importantly, if you want to advertise on the show, please do email me at mpho at 1wsr.com. And that's the platform One World Sports Radio. You can find us there. We talk cricket. That's what we do. And it's been a monumental week for South African cricket. Lots has happened. Obviously, everyone's going to talk about the SA20 and everything else, but we've forgotten. And then that was my weekend, Tim. I went to go watch the SA19 girls, the women's team, in the inaugural. It's a T20 World Cup, but I'm assuming it's under 19 Women's World Cup, and I think that they're calling it a T20 World Cup, but that's what it is. It's in Benoni at Willamore Park. They've got two fields there, and they've also got it in Potch at the University of Northwest Oval, and yeah, so it's we're having a festival cricket here in South Africa, and it's really awesome. And I went to go watch the first game. Our girls did well. They scored 166. Simone Lawrence is only 15, and she managed to put down the first half century of the tournament. Karabo Missa had a great day, and lots of batters. Elandri Jansen van Rensburg at the top. She was really good. But then it was the show to Shafali Verma. We've seen her play for the Indian national side, and yeah, it's she's like a bully. No, not in that sense, but like she's in terms of like
in a cricketing sense. In a cricketing sense. With the balls that you give her, she's a bully. No, she is.
Oh my word!
Look, she's played 74 games for the national side, so it was slightly unfair for us, but it was good. It was great to see.
But yeah, so it was good. It's good to have and good to see, and I think India's gonna win this tournament. If they don't, then yeah. Because they've also got Risha Ghosh, who's gotten about 40 caps as well for India. So there was a lot of talent in that Indian side, and it kind of tells you where everything is. And we'll talk about the under-19s later on, because I have so many theories about this. I think every year we wake up and we realize, oh, the under-19 team didn't do well. And I'm like, but they may not be the best under-19s in the world. And you can't like the Proteas build up to that, but you can. But we'll see. We'll talk about that. But why I say it's another big week is because obviously we're leading up to the Women's World Cup, but it's the men's team. We now were told, obviously we're told over the weekend that there's an announcement coming regarding the coaches, and it happened today at 10 a.m. We have two new coaches. Shukri Conrad will be coaching the men's side from the test team, and you've got Rob Walter who'll be coaching the men's side from the ODI side, as my phone falls on the floor. Sorry, bad podcasting. I'm trying to get you the name. So, for those who don't know who Shukri Conrad is, he was the first franchise coach for the Lions. He coached Gauteng B in the turn of the century, 99-2000. First franchise coach for the Lions in 04-05. He's coached the Cobras, won 3 titles there when the Cobras were still doing great things. Really, it was a good side. It had like Smith, Callis, and all those guys back when guys could play.
That was quality side. Quality.
Yeah, Gary Kirsten, like Oaks, yeah, top side. Andrew Patek as well. Jeez. Okay. Then he went on to coach the Uganda national side for a year. He's been in the CSA National Academy for 2 years. And then he's coached SA in 2016. And his recent appointment, which is also kind of interesting, what happens to the SA19 side. He was the SA19 coach for this team that went to with the West Indies, the Devo Brest team, Liam Mulder, Matthew Boast, all those guys who impressed everybody. Kwena Mapaka was there. And so he now gets a step up to the national team coach, the test team. Tim, what do you make of that appointment?
Well, he's somebody who has literally had a finger on every single post, pretty much, that Cricket South Africa has had to offer. So he knows Cricket South Africa, he knows the cricket that's been played in South Africa for the last 2 decades. So he's got the knowledge. You can't say he doesn't have the knowledge. A lot of these guys, you think, well, how much do they know? They've only been, coached for a couple of years. He's got the knowledge. He knows the players. He is a very confident individual. Whenever he has spoken recently, he's actually spoken recently. The last couple of months, people were asking his opinions, and he's got a very definite plan about going forward. I remain slightly unconvinced. I do think he is better placed with the youth that's coming through. I think there are people who are just better at that. I think he's better placed than that. But he does have the knowledge. So if he uses the knowledge that he's gained after 2 decades, there is no reason why he shouldn't make a success of it. It's going to be interesting. I don't quite know in what direction he's going to go. I sort of get the idea of his overall thinking about cricket, but it's an interesting appointment. Let's put it that way. I think
what do you think of his overall thinking around cricket? Because so I know Enoch is his style of play is very aggressive. Not aggressive, positive. He always wants to win games, even if there's a situation where you can't. He'll always ask you to be playing positive cricket. And to a certain extent, I know that those plans in that Boucher era were necessarily documented, and he did present. Well, he didn't get the opportunity to present that to Graham, but in that initial selection committee when they have interviews, he kind of had that. So do you think Shukri is the guy? Because my assumption is in the interview, they picked the guys who kind of fit closest with where Enoch wanted the type of cricket South Africa to play.
Yes, in the press conference, there was no sort of mention about, in terms of direction, in any specifics. There was no mention about positive or negative, or playing in a particular pattern. It was more about they have a similar outlook in terms of wanting to make what we have better. In that they have the knowledge that is there. It's about how we use that knowledge that we know. The players that we have are good enough to be performing better than they are. So it's quite difficult to pinpoint Shukri in terms of that. But what I would say is he is quite a hard tasker. From what I remember him when he was coaching domestic cricket, he is quite a hard task in terms of not necessarily this is my way and this is the only way. It's this is my way and this is why I think it is right. Okay. And I think it depends on whether the players will then buy into that system. I don't know if they will, but as you rightly point out, if an experienced province side, for example, and even the line side, it had Stephen Cook, it had H.D. Ackerman, so he had real seasoned campaigners when he was there. If they can work with him in the way that they did, they had 5 years of province, and it was successful. Then, at the face of it, he should be making a success of this. My worry, though, as I said before, is he's been a little bit too far outside of the system. He spent a lot of time, spent the last 6 years pretty much with the youth, with the under-19s, with the under-21s, with a couple of years with the A side. So I don't know if the new breed are going to accept that way of thinking. because it has been a long time since he's been a head coach domestically.
So while I like this appointment, right, I think it's slightly different compared. Well, look, if I looked at the list of names that were there, right, a lot of the guys weren't in the system. But as you say, Shukri, so Mali was the closest, and Shukri was the second closest, right? And I don't know the reasons why they didn't pick Mali, but I'm sure they got into that at the presser. Um, but for me, I'm sitting here going, this is a man who has his career keeps on elevating up. Spent 20 years as a man of color going through the different levels, and finally he's reached the top. Right. So I know that he still wants to do this, and that's the tick. Because if you look at all the other coaches, even domestically, they didn't apply, which means that they don't see that as as something that they want. So that was one for me. I was like, okay, cool. And the other thing is he's been in the youth structures. He's gonna because if we're going young, and this is the other thing, it looks like we are going young, right? So if we are gonna go, the 30 somethings are gonna go, or so we're gonna keep some, but we're gonna try and bring in this new crop of guys who've been playing under 19s for the past 4 or 5 years, the 25-year-olds and down. He's the best guy to know what makes them tick. They will respect him based on the fact that the relationship they've had before. And so I'm comfortable with that. From a style of play, that's going to be a question of, has he evolved over the 20 years? Does he see cricket in a modern way that will help us be successful? I'm not saying baseball, but essentially there is a way. Test cricket has changed.
Yeah.
Especially from the times when he was coaching the Cobras, when Graham thinks a draw is a great thing. Today, a draw is not a great thing. You have to go for it. We've got an analytics movement now. We've got all of those things. We've got mental aspects that we have to consider as well. And is he going to embrace that? And my assumption would be a yes. And I think that's what got him the job, because knowing Enoch, I know those things are forefront, and he wouldn't bring a coach who's not going to be stuck there. And that's also going into like the relationship aspects, right? We saw in SJN people talking about how disrespectful Ray Jennings was, everything else, and I'm not saying Shukri's at that level of my way, the highway, in terms of coaching, but if he's willing to adapt and bring in guys in and to new methods and be accommodating, then why not? So I'm excited. We'll see what comes out of it. I'm happy that a process was done. I don't have a problem for credentials. Credentials are great, and they're important. But a fair process needs to happen, and that's always been my cry. Even when Mark Bacha was hired, there needed to be a fair process. If Mark was going to be the ultimate candidate after the process, then fine. But if there is no process, we're going to then look at people's qualifications and then say, are you fit? Whereas here, they've gone through the process, they've decided, and Shukri's come out as the best candidate. And largely these things weigh on the interview. So for the guys who say they don't know him or he hasn't been, no. It's the fact that the director of cricket trusts him as a guy he's going to move forward with. Same thing with the way Rob Key gave Brendan McCullum, with little coaching experience, the reins, largely because of his ideas, right? And so it's about the interview. And if you interview well, you'll get the job. So now let's talk about the second guy. Well, he's not the second guy. He's the coach of the white ball teams.
I just want to, because you mentioned that it's important. So you mentioned Mali. Enoch wants Mali to stay in the system. He didn't say exactly what, because I did ask him whether he'd go back into the SAA setup. He didn't say yes or no. He just said he wants him to stay in the system, and they are having conversations around that. The other thing is, these two don't come in till February the 1st. So there's going to be an interim guy for the England series. So Mali will probably, they said Mali will probably be involved in that in some way. So if those 3 ODIs, they're not going to have Rob involved. He only
Okay.
comes in on the 1st of Feb, just so in
Yep.
case people are wondering what's going on when we start that series.
Poor Mali. I feel he's like he's the guy who's been pushed around. Like obviously when Otis came in, we felt that he should have stayed, but he got a promotion. Who was going to say no to it? And that promotion has led him to be moved around here and there. And yeah, he's the ultimate team man, system man. Well, company man, because he stayed inside CSA, he didn't leave, and now he's being pushed around again. I just hope they give him that under 19 job. I think it's got enough gravitas for him to actually earn his coaching stripes again. Because and outside of him getting a franchise deal or a provincial deal, which I think there's a team in Bloemfontein that needs that needs a new coach. Yes, Rob Walter, ODI coach, T20 coach. He's been in the Proteas before, so if you're wondering that you've heard that name before, yeah. He's worked as a strength and conditioning coach for the Proteas from 2009 to 2013. So we're going to have a very fit team. Drop a catch, run. That's what I'm expecting, Rob, if you ever watch this. He's been head coach of the Titans in 2013 to 2016. Also very gun teams, AB de Villiers, Faf du Plessis, all those guys are still in there, even though they were like Proteas. But you then started to see the emergence of the Lungingitis into the side and the Aiden Markrams at that time for that team. So he's worked with a couple of the guys who are there, the Dean Algas, you get the Tienes the brains like
Yeah,
his
yes, yeah.
and then he moved over to New Zealand, to Otago. He was the guy who got Devon Conway to go across, right? Or was it another person?
I'm not sure it was Rob. It might have been Rob. I can't remember
someone
exactly. It might have been somebody else. I can't swear to that.
Yeah, but he coached Otago 2016 to 2021, and then he was the coach of the Central Stags up until now, from 21 until now. He's been an assistant coach in the IPL. If you're looking for credentials for those people who are the CV Warriors, he coached the Pune Warriors, or he's an assistant coach at the Pune Warriors, at the Delhi Capitals as well. So Rob's been around the world. My only worry with Rob was that he hasn't been in domestic cricket, but this is a left field appointment. So it's a situation that's telling me that Enoch and the panel are applying their minds, their thinking, and maybe the interview, as I said with Shukri, was what won them over. Am I correct, Tim?
I think so. I think before the top 6 were announced, Rob is not a man that I thought would come into contention. Not because he's not a good coach. I think he is a good coach. I just didn't think Cricket South Africa would widen their outlook that wide. I think they would have stuck locally due to the finances. The other thing I think is important to this, and I think this definitely played a part, is the fielding standards of the Proteas the last couple of years. I think they looked at it and thought, you know what? We like what he's saying, but also he was the fitness coach under Domingo and Gary Kirsten. Back when South Africa were fielding, a really good fielding side, like they usually are. So I'd be alarm bells if I was just an Ontong, because Rob could easily do the both. He could be the head coach and do the fielding drills easily.
Question. I think we spoke about the software before we went on. The coaching staffs, right? Are they going to have 2, or are they going to have 1 that transcends both, that goes across both, and it's just the head man that changes?
They didn't specify, but I can't imagine that they'd have 2 separate coaching backroom staffs. I can't imagine. Again, due to finances, you're not gonna employ 12 people to do six roles in the tests and 6 roles in the whiteboard. I can't imagine that's gonna work. You might get a consultant coming in for one of the formats for a tour. So the test team goes to India and gets a consultant for 6 weeks, that sort of thing. But I can't imagine.
You'd have one batting coach, one bowling coach, one fielding coach.
Yeah.
That goes across.
That's what
different
I would
format.
think. I'd be very surprised if that was not the case. Just a little bit more on Rob. It's funny you mentioned the Conrad thing because I was looking up what he's been doing over in New Zealand, and Conrad was playing for Otago. Conrad was playing for Otago. Head coach was Rob Walter. So you're probably right. You're probably right. But
We
the
missed out on
interesting thing is with
Devon.
the interesting thing there is the work that he's done. So when he arrived, Otago were a mediocre side, and he worked a lot with the youngsters over there in Otago, uh, producing the young youth of New Zealand cricket was a huge focus of his. He
And
was
82.
highly thought of. He was last year, I think 2021, he was the New Zealand A coach. So
Yeah.
they rate him very highly. And with Otago, he took them to 3 finals in his 5 years. And that was white ball and red ball. So he didn't win any trophies as such, but he did promote a lot of youngsters coming through the system. I think there's a guy called Duffy who's now playing for New Zealand. He wasn't playing for New Zealand. He's brought
Yes, I
guys
remember.
in.
Yeah, yeah. Mm.
And
So,
so, yeah, that's basically him, his sort of outlook while he was in New Zealand.
so for me, this is a coach with international pedigree. What you're telling me, Tim, is a guy who has, because for instance, right, if New Zealand has a coaching surge, he's top of their list. So literally, we've like stolen him from them, essentially, or he's come back home. But that's what it is, and so I'm happy with this appointment. And the other thing is that with that Titans background, there's a certain boy who's currently captaining a team that's at the bottom of the SA20. He could bring out the best in him, what we've been waiting for a very long time. Um, and so because I look at what he did with Devon, right? Devon comes in, yeah, hasn't had the greatest of. It's not a memorable. It's not a memorable domestic career in South Africa. The
No,
man did pop
no,
in New Zealand.
yeah,
Man popped. And so either with a team, with a batting lineup that's not living up to its potential, the Vian Mulders, the Aiden Markrams. I think Timber's batting at his potential, and I think he's possibly even exceeding his potential from an ODI perspective, even a Test perspective, right? But everyone else around him isn't living up to their potential, right? Because to a certain extent, I think a lot of those guys are a lot of the top 6 in that ODI side is much better than Timber, but Timber's seemingly, coming through. And Quinny could go to another level. Maybe even Quinny could come back into the Test fold. I don't know. As a batter, as your number 4. Who knows? I don't know. I'm just speaking into the universe. Um, and so I've got a lot of optimism. I really do with Rob and Shukri. I love both of them. I think they'll give us something, and to a certain extent bring in a guy like Brevis and turning him into a dominating force in international cricket. The Rickletons, um, the guys we're seeing in SA20 right now, putting up their hands, and the plethora of all rounders we never thought we had, but we do. The Delano Portgieters, obviously Dwayne's gone, but Vian Mulder batting at number 3 now, opening for, so I'm sitting there going, this, he's got so much potential, so much to work on. And so for me, Tim, my question to you, like with the press conference that happened today, I didn't attend, but you were there. What are the key highlights that came out of that press conference in terms of what this looks like? Because to me, it feels like it's a changing of the guard. And the other thing is that the head coaches probably won't be able to select their backroom staff, which means that they're more like coaches than necessarily a manager controlling everything. And it gives a lot of power back to the director of cricket, essentially. What do you make of that? And what else came out of that press conference?
I think so. It was about 45 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and I think in the last 10 minutes they used the phrase Cricket South Africa doesn't have its cash strapped about 7 times.
Oh.
They emphasise the fact that Cricket South Africa, despite the money that's coming for SA20, with this new direction, the people must be, I get the impression, a little bit tempered in their optimism. Okay. It is a new direction. They wanted to go in a new direction. They particularly said for the test setup, this is a new direction. They didn't specify that so much in Rob Walter's case. They just said, in the test setup, we know we need a new direction. We know we need a new setup. They alluded to the fact that they needed a new leadership for the next 5 years. So you could read into that rather well if you read into that.
Oh, Devil Brevis is going to captain the Proteas.
Well, yeah. He did come into the press conference. Somebody asked him about him. No, it's silly to ask about Brevis. I mean, just let the guy play, man. Let the guy play. But the big thing for me, and I've been beating this drum for a long time on this podcast, the big thing for me is the high performance coach, which is basically your mental expert. And they said they are looking for this post to be full time. Not of this come in for 6 weeks and cheerio, or come in for this seminar we have and you'll talk to the players for a 10-day period. They actually want that post across the formats full time. That is the biggest possible plus going forward. There was a lot in there, but I can't emphasize the fact that they mentioned the fact that Cricket South Africa doesn't have the finances to get just anything they want right now. They hope to be in a better position, a couple of years down the line, but at the moment, so don't expect, I think you alluded to, don't expect massive changes in terms of backroom staff.
Yeah.
Don't expect that. Expect the majority of the guys to hang on. We know Lagerfeld is going. Lagerfeld is going to the IPL, so they're going to need a new bowling coach. Even as you mentioned, it's not entirely his fault. They do need a new batting coach. But I think outside of that, I think it's going to remain the same.
Yeah.
Unless the individual in question.
A lot of flack. The other thing for me is as I pointed out before we came on the show, we should just record when we say hi, Tim. Is that Enoch's been in that Mark Boucher backroom staff, so he knows how that backroom staff was treated. So to a certain extent, if he's going to keep some of the guys, it's him telling us that he still believes these guys can do a good job. It's just that they weren't allowed to fully express themselves in the roles, largely because of the fact that Mark, and we've heard this many times, considered Enoch a Cohen's boy. If he considered Enoch a Cohen's boy, what about the rest of them? And so I'm not saying I'm blaming Mark for the failures in our batting, but there could be an issue there. There could have been an issue there. And now with him out, you could see a little bit of freedom. But Australia told us something else. And that's the other side of the coin. And so that's going to be quite interesting to see what Enoch does in that batting coach role. I think it might be consultants, but you need someone full-time to kind of work with the players' techniques, who understands the players' techniques, who has like a baseline of all the batters in the system and can then work on things with them, because the consultant's going to come and say, but why is your bat left over there even though you've scored many runs? Carl Verena as an example, right? And to a certain extent, you can say the work with Carl Verena was a tick. I don't know who helped him. I'm going to put it down to Justin Salmons, because Carl's actually scoring runs at international level now. So,
well, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but since Justin Salmons shaved, South African batsmen almost look like batsmen. He had a beard at the beginning of the Australian tour. He shaved it off in the middle of the third test. And we had that second innings where we actually looked like batsmen for a change. So yeah. maybe he's got rid of the curse.
And then from a captaincy perspective, did they say anything about that?
they want, they mentioned this for the tests, this is a new direction for the next 5 years. Enoch said, so we need a new leadership for the next 5 years. He then doubled back and said, that doesn't mean we're going to fire anybody, but we do have to we do have to realize that for the next 5 years we need some kind of a leadership group to take us through. So what he essentially is saying is, whoever the vice captain is now is going to be the captain for the next 5 years. That's what I'm thinking. Thinking.
Well, okay, 32-year-old Timber. That's awesome.
I don't think necessarily the Dean's going to get the sack on February the 2nd. That's my thinking. My thinking is they might go, we'll go with Dean for now. We think he's done all right. But they might change the vice captain. They might say, right, let's pick whoever. Okay. That guy there is going to be the next captain for the next 5 years. That's what they were alluding to. They needed some sort of ground base to start from, because it is essentially a start from fresh.
Yeah. So congratulations to all of them, Shukri and Rob. If you guys want to come on the podcast, happiness. We will talk about Proteas and everything great. So all the best to you. We look forward to seeing the Proteas play and all the successes in the world. So now we're going to shift over to the other side of our podcast, the second topic of the podcast, which is the SA20 recap. And yeah, so the SA20 started last week Tuesday. We've had a lot of cricket. It's been every day we've had a match. And then yesterday was weird because the match was at like 1:30, and I was like, somebody at Supersport loves Arsenal to the point where he wants us to watch Arsenal without cricket, which is awesome. And Arsenal delivered, so top of the log.
Whatever.
So, first, what are your impressions, Tim, of the tournament and everything? Is this what we've needed? I think this is the second best T20 tournament in the world.
Right now, probably is. Yes. Right now, probably is. Look, it was always going to be a success in terms of the cricket being played. When you put this much money into a competition, when you put this much advertising, when you wake up in the morning and you flip open your laptop, and the first thing you see when you go to Google is an advert for SA20, and then you go to Facebook, and then you go through your feed, and there's an advert for SA20, and then you go to Twitter, and then you see your feed, and in the middle, in the next couple of minutes, there's an advert for SA20, and then you get the Instagram, and then you get exactly the same. It's unmatched. The advertising for this tournament has been through the roof. It has been relentless. So, in terms of that, I'm not surprised. In terms of the overseas talent we've had on show, they've pretty much ticked all the boxes, bar the odd exception. It's not a surprise to me that it's been a success. It's not a surprise to me that the crowds have been good, that we've seen sellout crowds outside of units. It's not a surprise. What is good is it is sustained. I think this is going to remain throughout the 33 days. I don't think there is going to be a let-up. I thought initially there might be a bit of a let-off anyway. Like Cape Town's game on Wednesday. It's a 1:30 start. You may not see a full capacity at 1:30.
Yeah.
But come the second innings, it will be. Come the second innings, it'll probably be 80% full.
What I can tell you about the game at the Wanderers tomorrow, Joburg Super Kings' first home game, which is also an indicator of this tournament. It's sold out. We got a message this week, yesterday, earlier today.
A midweek game, which is
the Tuesday night, dude.
It's crazy, but still.
Or maybe people are running away from the traffic and just going to watch cricket, which is great too.
Which is great. which is
That's
great.
what I'm doing.
The only thing is, and again, this will not be in Cricket South Africa's worries at all. Everything that Cricket South Africa wanted, they've got from the first couple of weeks of this tournament. All the boxes have been ticked. They wanted money, they've got the money. They wanted crowds, they've got crowds. They wanted memorabilia to be sold. You go to that Eastern Cape home games, it's orange. The whole place is just orange, just everywhere.
Oh, and the
It's
bucket
just
hats.
it's just orange everywhere. So another tick. Somebody pointed out to me we haven't seen any real close games. That's irrelevant.
You don't care about that.
It would be nice, yeah, of course it would be nice, but that's irrelevant. Everything that we needed and wanted from the tournament has already been provided, and we haven't even reached halfway.
Look, the close games thing is gonna happen as the season these weeks go on, because teams now become better and more accustomed.
Yeah.
But Tim, I think for me, my initial thoughts are similar to yours. I'm still weirded out by the fact that I'm watching cricket in South Africa, and there are games with no Black Africans, or even players of color, and people can come down on me saying transformational quotas ruined our cricket. Fine, you can say that, but this is still South Africa. Like it feels, even the commentary team, and that irks me so much. And that's the only negative I can give, is the diversity has been treated like a corporate in South Africa. It's grassroots development like everybody wants. So it's like it's an afterthought. It's oh yeah, we still need to do this. Okay, let's go to grassroots where they can't do much. And if something pops up there, it's a nice little story and everything else. The fact that there's no Black South African commentator in there. And you can tell me they've gone to Xhosa, but many other guys are not Xhosa commentators. You can take one. Why is Makaya not in the English commentary? Makaya would suit this commentary.
I'll just come back on that. So I agree in terms of the people being bought. There could have been one or two different that I would have picked. I think that's going to change as the competition gets better, as people get accustomed to the competition, as the owners the owners will have to watch domestic cricket in South Africa outside of this. They can't just go, because you're going to get guys, we've seen guys right now in this competition, local guys, getting pasted. And these owners, when they see them getting pasted for a couple of games, they're going to go, who's next? Who's next? That's what they're going to do. They're not going to go, let's keep him on our books for the next 3 or 4 seasons. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. They're going to go, we want the next thing. They're going to go out there and they're going to find it. That's going to take time. But I agree with you. It does need to change.
I'm with you, Tim. It's just the one thing. Everything's great. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's what we need. It's just, it feels to me, I was like,
What I would say about the commentary is, I think the majority of the guys that are in the Xhosa commentary are better suited to that. That's not to say Mackay couldn't do the English commentary. I think he is better suited to that, and that's a great way for people who do happen to be lucky enough to have GSTV to attract people.
Tim, there's many Xhosa commentators, and there's not only Mackay. What I'm saying is,
I know.
I look at that panel and I'm like, oh, it's Graham Smith's WhatsApp group. That's what it is. I've said it many times before. It's his WhatsApp group. And my thing is that I thought he could see beyond that, because to a certain extent, there are people who are necessarily Black people I've spoken to who like the competition, but are struggling to watch it because of the fact that not a lot of people look like them. And we can switch over to Xhosa commentary, but the person on the ground, I'm seeing Mark Nicholas, I'm seeing Darren Goff, I'm seeing Kevin Peterson. Yet the only person of color is Pommy and Darren Sammy. And obviously Cass is there. Even that's another question. How many women are in this thing? And so for me, that's the thing that for SA20 2.0, you got to be thinking about. And I thought, and this is the thing that I have a problem with. I had a problem with Graham from the beginning, is that it's the diversity and everything else. But great tournament, lovely stuff. And I'm gonna stop there because we need to move on to a new segment that we have. Right, we're gonna call this. Well, we've got two segments coming up. Tim, this is the "You Have My Attention." Right, so these are the guys who have surprised us this week in a good way. Who've grabbed our attention. So for me, one thing is the Pretoria Capitals. Oh my word! Yes, they did only play the Sunrisers, and I think, like I said in our preview, the Sunrisers are hype FC. They need to live up to the hype to their hype for them to be anything else. But that looks like a very strong team. Like bowling and batting sorted. Adil Rashid, Wayne Parnell can even bat. Will Jacks, Phil Salt. So I like that team. I really do. I think I'm like, oh, we've got another Titans.
Yep, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Their analyst is a very shrewd analyst from England. Or he's probably one of the analysts, but he's the main guy. He knows what he's doing. I am a little bit surprised that Josh Little hasn't played. Particularly with what I said to you last week, where he's literally got 2 weeks. He's got 1 more week left of the competition, and then he goes.
To some extent, I think they've found their 11, and they're happy, whereas all the other teams are still trying to figure out their 11. And to a certain extent, a guy like Shane Dadswell made it in to that 11. And you're like, okay, yeah. But, okay. Anybody else that's grabbed your attention, Tim?
It's a difficult one. Mostly because I'm sure lots of people will know this. Because of load shedding that we have in this country, I saw precisely 0 deliveries from that game that you talk so fondly about yesterday. Not a single ball. I didn't see a single delivery. I heard about it. I heard about a team making 216. But I didn't see a damn thing.
Oh, the Durban Super Giants. Oh, they were good. They were very good. But so, yeah.
Yeah, look, it's a bit difficult for me. I think, okay. In a different way, what's taken my attention, is the Durban Super Giants.
Mm-hmm.
The Durban Super Giants, you and I have said, too many all-rounders, it doesn't work, not enough out-and-out individuals in that 11. Their decision-making has actually cost them so far. They could have won most of their games if they had been a little bit more shrewd in their decision-making.
It was the first game, because they won the other 2.
Okay, so they only lost 1.
Yeah, it was the Joburg Super Kings.
Okay,
that
okay.
match was horrible.
But okay.
But here's the thing, right? Their batting lineup looks weird. They had Jason Holder at 3. They had Vian Mulder come in at 3. They outside of Carl Mayers and Quinton de Kock, it just doesn't work. I thought they were lucky against the MI Cape Town. I thought they got away with it, largely because they're bowling. And I think on the coast, that little 3-spinner situation that they have could work. And all the dibbly-dobblers that Carl Mayers bowls, even though he's bowled a instant Yorker to Devil Brevis, that works. And I thought that MI Cape Town game, they got lucky. But then they decided to switch it up again. Then they decided to open with Vian Mulder and Carl Mayers and have Quinny coming at 3. And I was like, what are you guys doing? They went and scored 216. And I'm like, okay. So after the blunder against Joburg Sioux Kings, they've just tinkering with it and it's seemingly working. And that's why they're you have my attention team. Because I was like, what are you guys doing? The other thing is that Simon Harmer's not bowling.
Well, I was
They
just
played Simon Harmer and you didn't bowl. I was like,
you
so
stole my thunder. Yeah, you pick Simon Harmer. You don't play him. You pick Britsky for 2 games, and you don't bat him when he is the informed T20 local player
he can bat
in
today.
that side. It made no sense at all. You've got Carl Mayers, who no batsman can play for some reason, and yet he only bowls a maximum of 2 overs a match. He doesn't bowl it a lot at 4. He gets like 2 overs, 2 for 10. I was like, you're not bowling him. So their thinking is weird, but yeah, as you rightly point out, it's working out more than it's not somehow.
Their bowling is good. I'll tell you that. They've got 9 bowling options. I'm like, guys, that's too much. It is too much. And that's why they have my attention. They're sitting at the top of the log. The other person who's had my attention is Devo Brevis. And I watched him in that opening game, and I was like, this guy is going to end his career as probably the highest paid cricketer ever in the history of cricket. Because he's going to be wanted by the IPL. He's going to probably draw the highest number. He's going to be the face of SA20 for the next 10 to 15 years. He announced himself on probably the most watched, the stage where he was most watched, probably the most viewers. He's probably had more people in the stadium because he's played in India. But in terms of eyeballs, important eyeballs, South African eyeballs, he announced himself. So that's me.
Yeah.
And then the other one is Ollie Stone. He's not going out with a fight. My man. The only person in SA20 who can bowl a Yorker. It's unbelievable. Like, he's like the only guy. I'm like, dude. Ollie Stone. Yes, but I have a theory that MI Cape Town can play Kagiso, Ollie, and Jofra, and just go. We're going all up, especially when they come to the Highveld, when they play Pretoria, when they play in Johannesburg, even when they go to the Eastern Cape, and they're playing them, I think, this weekend or sometime when they come back, whenever it is. I'd like to see that. I really would. Will Jacks. He's another one who has my attention. I'm sorry, I didn't know who you were before you started. I knew you played for Surrey. Oh, yeah. You think you did play for Surrey.
Yes, sorry. Yes.
Yes, I thought you out the English side. Okay. I see you. That 86. Okay. Full salt too. I thought I was like, he's good enough. Like, how good can he be? Because it's England that has like Jason Roy and Josh Butler. Why is England busy fiddling around with Jason Roy when they've got this guy? So yeah. Okay. Now let's go to the other side of the coin. I'm not mad, but I'm disappointed. So this is, as it says, I'm not mad, I'm not disappointed. But I want to start with my team. Joburg Super Kings. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. What are you guys doing? You've got Faf, you've got Reza, you've got Yanaman at the top, and what's going on? The bowling seemingly is okay, but what's going on at the top? Well, Stephen Fleming thinks it's just like the start of the season. Don't worry, it'll come alright. They'll be fine. It's just one innings. It's fine. And I'm like, no, Stephen. If Reza somehow is back to the old Reza, and Yanaman can't play T20 cricket for the past year, like he looked like a different player, we're in trouble. This team's in trouble. And they're playing tomorrow against the Pretoria Capitals, and oh Lord, it could get ugly. It could get very.
Yeah. Look, I said to you, not having Harry Brook and Owen Ali would be devastating, absolutely devastating. I didn't think it would be this devastating, I must say. But that you are essentially a batsman light. Whichever combination you have tried, and you've tried a couple and you've changed the order a couple of times, but you are still essentially a batsman light, whatever you guys have tried. The other thing is Thikshana. He has to get there soon.
Oh, he's landed in Johannesburg, by the way. He's playing tomorrow.
He
desperately.
has to get there as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, I really thought Janneman had turned the corner. I thought Janneman had turned the corner playing spin. He was never going to be outstanding, but I thought he had turned the corner.
He just can't return
My
the strike.
word.
It's
He's
horrible.
just... No, it's horrible. It's so sad to see because I thought he was going to have, a fantastic breakout 2023, play for the Proteas again, and he's having a tough time. There's no getting around it. He's having a real tough time.
Outside of Donovan Ferreira, who should be in You Have My Attention, that team just looks not great.
Yeah.
Cal Verena will come good. You just need time. But yeah, so we're going to give them time. You're running out of time. You've already played 3 games, and you're playing 10. So yeah, the thing is, Stephen Fleming said we played away from home. When we play at home, this team's set up to play at home. So we'll find out. The other team, the hype team, Sunrisers Eastern Cape, with future potential Proteas captain Aiden Markram leading them. I'm not sold. I wasn't sold before. I'm not sold now. Dan Weston, if you can find his tweets, he speaks about boundary percentages. And he's like, the Sunrisers have guys with low boundary percentages. I still need to do the research, and we'll probably do it next week in a larger show that we talk more about this. Yeah. Sorry. They scored 189 on Sunday. Was okay. We're like, oh, shoot, cool. Yeah, fine.
But that's always going to happen in one-off game, but not on a consistent basis with that setup.
I thought the Durban Super Giants were bad. Like, yeah, practically, like, I don't know how they're going to win games. From a bowling perspective, I don't think they're there. From a batting perspective, I don't think they're there. Like, Sisanda bowled well, but he was like the only guy who bowled well in that 216. But yeah, it's going to be a baptism of fire for those young kids. It's going to be tough.
We said the local guys had to come good, and they haven't. That's essentially where we're at. They have not come good in the way that we envisioned. I certainly envisioned Markham coming good with the bat. Not so much the captaincy. I really thought that this was going to be...
He's like the only ray of light. If he just needs someone to bat around him.
Yeah.
Or bat with him. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll give him that.
Yeah.
For that. And then the other thing that I'm not mad, just disappointed, is what happened to Corbin Bosch. I thought he was this great guy. He had a great CPL. Is this the Corbin Bosch that I know? The fact that he can't even get a game for the Paul Royals. When they needed... So here's the thing. Opening match, they needed a fast bowler. They went to Cody Yusuf. And it wasn't some sort of weird quota thing. They went to Cody Yusuf, who isn't as accomplished as Corbin Bosch in this format. And we found out that actually needed a batter. And I thought Corbin Bosch was more of an all-rounder. And we haven't seen him since. And they pre-bought him. They took him out of the auction. What's happening there?
Yeah.
Someone needs to tell us. Because, as you say, Tim, next season, he might be without a team.
Yeah. These owners are going to be ruthless. There's no doubt about that. They can have the same thinking with the IPL teams. They've put it the money. You need to perform. I don't have anything to add in terms of Corbin as to why he's not in the 11. All I can say is I'm delighted that his brother's doing well. That's all I can say.
Yes, Ethan.
I'm delighted that he's having a good tournament.
They've done well. The Rickletons, the Brevises, the Ethan Bosches, they put up their hand. Donovan Ferreira. They're putting up their hands. So let's look at the table, and then we'll do a larger show next week because we've got a break for the ODIs, the SA England ODIs. So we're going to talk about SA20 more, and the picture will look a little bit different. So I've just got the log here. And you've got MI Cape Town at the top, having won 2 of their 3 games. Pretoria Capitals have won all their games. MI Cape Town have a bonus point. It was the game of the Paul Royals. So they've won 3 out of... They played 3 games, won 2. That was the Capitals. The MI Cape Town. The Capitals won 2 out of 2. They're the only undefeated side. Durban Supergiants won 2 out of their 3. They're third with 8 points. Paul Royals have won one of their 2. They're on 5 points. And the Super Kings have won one of their 2 games, 3 games. And they're on 4 points. And you got the Sunrise sitting at the bottom without a win, on 0 points. So that's going to be quite interesting. This week's fixtures, um, looking at that, you've got the Sunrisers and MI Cape Town today, at 5 p.m. this Monday. And then you've got Paul Royals and the Durban Supergiants and Paul. Joburg Super Kings and Pretoria Capitals tomorrow night at the Wanderers. First game in Johannesburg. Then you've got MI Cape Town and the Sunrisers at Newlands on Wednesday at 1:30. And then Pretoria Capitals and Super Kings Centurion at 5. And Paul Royals play the Sunrisers on Thursday. And Durban Supergiants play the Capitals and Kingsmead on Friday. The other fixtures, Paul Royals play the MI Cape Town on Saturday, as well as the Sunrisers play the Super Kings at St. George's on Saturday. You can see all the other fixtures on here. But yeah, we'll be back to do a larger show. I think next week we'll have playoff permutations as to the 4 teams who are going to go to the semifinals. But Tim, thank you very much, my man, as always. And to everybody, thank you very much. Please remember to subscribe, follow wherever platform you're listening to, but Spotify, Apple Podcasts, review, rate, follow, subscribe, YouTube, Twitter, and all the other social media places. Outside of that, thank you very much, and goodbye, good night, and lesale kakahiso.